Hello, algoriters, and happy Hump Day Wednesday. Court is back in session, and baby, do we have a show for you tonight. Everybody grab something to sip on, whether it's hot tea, cold tea, wine, or good old beer, or even a stiff drink, because you're going to need it for tonight's show. I'm Al Reynolds, and this is the Court of Public Opinion. I'll be serving as your judge, and you, the people, will be the jury. Remember, the Court of Public Opinion is a place where your people's voice can and will be heard. Be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that like button. I'm telling you, tonight's show is going to be hot. Hit that share. Make sure you hit that share button. That subscribe button. If you're already subscribed, be sure to hit that share button. Also, don't forget to turn on your notifications and jump deep into those comments. All right, for tonight's hot show, we have two of our spiciest legal beagles. First up, we have civil attorney Chaton Turner. Welcome back, Chaton, to the Court of Public Opinion. I think you're muted.
Hey, Al. Sorry about that. Hey, Al.
Excuse me. You mean Your Honor? You mean
Your
Honor? Your Honor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Counselor. And don't forget, this spicy one right here wants the fire emoji. So don't forget to use that fire emoji if you hear anything that Attorney Chaton Turner is sharing that you like. And next up, we have the one, the only Counselor. I don't even attorney extraordinaire. What is it? Civil? What is
I'll take it all. I do absolutely. So I do civil. You can get a consultation with me. Go to SymoneRedwine.com. Scroll down to book. I am available to the public for a fee. But I'm actually particularly do injury, those kind of things, civil law.
All right, welcome, Symone Redwine, and don't forget to break out those red wine emojis. And for me, don't forget the fax emojis. All right, court is now in session. First up, R. Kelly, you are in the Court of Public Opinion, and you're in the Court of Public Opinion because you want your sex crime cases thrown out due to statute of limitations. Now, Chaton Turner, you are a civil attorney. He's been sued both criminally and he's been sued on the civil side. Tell me, because what he's basically arguing here is that due to the statute of limitations, he should not be, it's not fair to bring these charges up against him and put him in jail. What say you?
R. Kelly is bringing a due process claim alleging that the PROTECT Act, which was passed in 2003, did not apply to the crimes that he was convicted of, which occurred in the 90s. And so he's arguing that they should be dismissed on procedural grounds. I think it's noteworthy that he's not saying that they should be dismissed on substantive grounds. He's not trying to say he didn't do it. So regardless of how this plays out for the ARA, as they say, I think it's relevant that he's not arguing the substance.
So, Symone, tell me this. As a female, as a person who worked on this case, that's right, our very own Symone Redwine represented someone who brought a case against R. Kelly. How upsetting is this for you as an attorney of someone who was a victim of his sex crimes?
Let me tell you, one of the reasons it's so upsetting is because he owes his victims millions and he can't seem to garner up a penny for them, but seems to have all the money in the world that he needs to make these frivolous appeals in criminal court. See, because those criminal attorneys, when you go to the appellate level, they don't work for free. And therefore, he's got money for that, but he simply doesn't have money for his victims. Absolutely not. It's disgusting. And he summarily lost on appeal because this is frivolous.
Now, tell me about the statute of limitations and what's the statute of limitations, federal, civil? Are there different statutes of limitations? And why would there be a statute of limitation for someone with so many violations?
So here, yes, there are different statute of limitations for federal offenses versus state. But here, the law in question basically says that if someone is under the age of 25 when they are assaulted, either the statute of limitations is unlimited or that it basically extends to allow these people to file the claims that they have. That's not unusual. So previously, throughout America, no matter what state you were in, the general rule was that the only offense that had an unlimited statute of limitations was murder. However,
Wow.
after the Catholic Church was found to have abused so many children who did not feel comfortable coming out until they were older. I'm saying some of these victims were like 50, 60, 40 years old, that then states changed the law to where if you were a minor when it happened, many of the states said if you were a minor when it happened, there's no statute of limitations, or that statute of limitations is like 30 years from basically when you become an adult.
Well, this is what's so interesting to me. And Symone, Chaton, you can weigh in here. The majority of his victims weren't even 20.
Right. And
forget 25. Forget 25. The majority of his victims were under 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my client was 19. So she was still a teenager.
Yeah. This is R. Kelly's equivalent of a Hail Mary, right? They're petitioning for a writ of certiorari before the Supreme Court. They're granted very infrequently. And I would be surprised if the judges decided that this is the case that they wanted to take when they could easily pass on it and find an excuse to the contrary.
Now, let me ask this question. And we're not saying, in answering this question, we're not supporting R. Kelly. We're simply what we would call people of the court. I can't, my brain's not working tonight, but we're officers of the court. Now, if you were representing R. Kelly, I think this is the one time, if you were trying to resubmit this to the courts, that you would not make it public information. Because it's your public information is what puts you, the court of public opinion is what puts you in jail, right? He got away with this. He got away with this for so long. So in his quest to appeal and say that he should not, it should be overturned for his sex crimes, I think it would have been in his best interest not to make that public knowledge. Because what you're doing is you're stirring back up everyone's emotion around how you took advantage of all those women for so long. And so then again, you're going to bring back up all of those ugly memories. You're going to bring back up the documentary. You're going to bring back up those days in federal court. You're going to bring those days up in state court. Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment to say that if this was something that he was trying to push back through the courts, if I was his attorney, I wouldn't want a PR push around this?
Well, I think he lost control of it because his only remedy is to potentially get a writ of certiorari by the U.S. Supreme Court. And so that's what made it public. And the reason I described it as a Hail Mary is because, if you're a football fan, and since I live in Pittsburgh, Franco Harris and the Hail Mary catch, right? But this is what you do when you have no other options. And this is limited to his child pornography, child trafficking, and child abuse cases, for which he got 20 years. And clearly he doesn't like prison. They probably aren't too nice to the R in prison, considering what he was convicted of. And so he probably is less concerned about the court of public opinion and more concerned about R. Kelly in prison for 20 years.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good assessment. All right, let's move on. Tory Lanez driver, Jaquan Smith. Welcome to the court of public opinion. Jaquan Smith is back in court, or back, trying to be in court, because he missed the first go round, and the prosecutors are saying, no, we won't allow his testimony. Now, this is very interesting to me, and I can't wait to hear our legal beagle's opinion on this. Jaquan Smith and Tory Lanez's story, as well as Kelsey's behavior, to me, seems to all be added up. Attorney Symone Redwine, please break down this case for me as it relates to Jaquan Smith.
Sure. So the issue was that his testimony, Jaquan's testimony, actually makes it all make sense, in the words of my friend, the YouTuber, which is that he says this. He says that the girls were fighting, effectively Megan and Kelsey were fighting. They began to fight over the fact that Kelsey had just found out that Megan was messing with Tory. And that as a result, Kelsey went and got the pow pow. That Tory simply went over to Kelsey and was trying to pull the pow pow, get the pow pow out of her hands. And that in doing so, he saw the gun go off. near the two of them. But at the same time, the driver was trying to pull Megan away. That actually is consistent with the testimony of the defense only witness. The defense only
Right.
called the neighbor. The problem is the neighbor said he saw the pow pow in Tory's hand, and that in fact he saw Tory, quote, shooting everywhere. Well, that's consistent with Tory then grabbing it from Kelsey. If they're fighting over it, then that would make sense that it could inadvertently go everywhere. And it also makes sense why Kelsey wanted immunity. Because without that immunity, she could have been just as liable, mind you, because of the fact that Tory Lanez, he wasn't found guilty of intentionally hurting Meg. He was found guilty of recklessly doing so. So meaning unintentionally, negligently, or recklessly in effect. So it actually has credibility. The problem is it's not new evidence. The problem is that Tory's attorneys made the strategic decision not to call him because the judge stated if they were going to call him, that the case would basically take a recess over Christmas and that it would have to resume post-Christmas. Tory's attorneys felt that was going to ruin the momentum that they had built. So they made that strategic decision. So instead of filing an appeal based on new evidence, perhaps he should have filed it based on ineffective assistance of counsel.
All right, so let's go back. We have Demonde H in the chat is saying that I'm wrong, that Tory won an appeal with the Appellate Court of California. Is this true, Symone? Because I have not read that anywhere.
No, I haven't either. While we're talking about it, I'll just double check. But no, I looked yesterday. Let me see. I'm going to search right now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, okay, let's go to you, Attorney Chaton Turner.
Yeah.
Help me understand this, because what I don't understand is this the same driver that disappeared? Remember, one driver disappeared, the only driver. He disappeared. They couldn't find him. Remember the courts were trying to bring him in and they couldn't find him. I'm not understanding this whole process here. And I also don't understand why the courts won't allow his testimony anymore. Can you shed some light on this, please?
It appears to be the same driver. And the way that I like to think about this case is like Sex, Lies, and the Kardashians. So when I started looking into it and found out they were at one of the Kardashians' house before him, they were all partying, they were drinking. This all happened at like 4:30 in the morning, and apparently Megan and Kelsey were best friends at some point, and it was Megan's idea that she get with the defendant, right? And she just kept quiet that she had her own relationship. But messy relationships tend to get messier. And when you're drunk and it's 4:30 in the morning, I guess people got chatty. And it came out that Megan and Tory had been messing around and Kelsey got upset. And now this new version of the facts has been presented. Interestingly, there are rumors, and I couldn't really figure out who started the rumors that are saying that this cover up was like bigger than Megan. So people are saying that Megan's not lying, that she probably did think he shot her. So it's not that she's complicit in some fraud, but that the labels or the producers for some reason concocted this story in order for the outcome that happened. And I don't know if Symone found something else about that, but that didn't quite make sense to me.
Yeah.
This is what didn't make sense to me. Hold on, I'll get to you, Symone. This is what didn't make sense to me. All right, now remember, they're at a Kardashian's house. He's in the pool and he's flirting with one of the Kardashians. Yeah. He's flirting so bad that Megan gets out of the pool, grabs Kelsey, and tells her it's time to go. They try to get Tory to come, and he doesn't come, right? He doesn't come. They're fighting. She's basically, in my man, how I saw it was, how dare you? Now you're going to be flirting with somebody else in front of the two that you already are backdooring. It just gets so messy to me. And the other part of that is when they finally get in the car, right? Oh, actually, Megan gets in the car. She comes back, right? Yeah. She comes back because allegedly she left something there. When she comes back, she actually pulls Tory out of the pool. So I'm thinking she's probably like, oh, hell no. You're not gonna get this. You're not gonna pull a Kardashian on the two of us when you sleeping with the two of us. I know I'm sleeping with you, but Kelsey don't. She goes back because she claims she left something. Pulls Tory out of the pool. Am I right with this? In my hot mind, this is how it happened. Then they get in the car. That's when they're arguing. And when they're arguing, he then shares to Kelsey that he and Megan have been sleeping around behind her back. Kelsey allegedly pulls a gun out, according to Jaquan.
Yeah.
So if the gun came from Kelsey, why doesn't Kelsey have any responsibility on how the gun was used? Anybody want to take this?
That's part of the factual dispute, which is why they're trying to get the appeal, is who had the gun and who used it. One version of the story, the one that was presented at the first trial, was that he was telling Megan, like, you know, that song, Bands Will Make You Dance. I guess he was thinking that the gun will make her dance, and he was shooting saying, dance, bitch, dance. And so
That
that's
never
how
happened.
he allegedly got shot in the foot. Right. But that's what the first version of the story. And so now,
Right.
to Al's point, there was also part of it that says Megan got out the car and got back in the car. And then there was so much confusion. And to Symone's point, that story has some appeal based on the number of shots that the neighbor said were fired. This whole shooting in the car just wasn't borne out by the facts that were presented.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, Al, what's important, you asked the question, you said, why isn't this new evidence being allowed in? So first, I did fact check. So there's an article out that says Tory Lanez recently, July 12th, won a small victory. The small victory is that the appeals court said they will hear his request to have new evidence submitted. So he hasn't been given a yes. They simply said they'll hear it. But the issue is this: the standard is this had to be information or evidence that was not available at the time of trial. Now, this was available at the time of the trial. It was the fact that the defendant's own legal team asked the court and said, hey, we want to call this person. But when they were told that you would have to call him after Christmas, and they did not want to mess up the so-called momentum that they felt like they had, they made that decision. Now, that was a ridiculous decision to me because of the fact that the only witness that put a pow in Tory Lanez's hand was the defendant's own witness. If the defendants had not, if Tory had not called that neighbor at all, he would have been fine, because the only people really that had versions would have been Megan's versions and Kelsey's version. And that absolutely would have created reasonable doubt. But once that neighbor put the pow in his hand, you had only one choice. And I don't care if that meant you had to wait till Revelations. Okay. I don't care if you had to wait till Kingdom Come. I was going to wait for Jesus Christ himself to come back if needed to do that part. And also to clarify, the driver wasn't missing. He was out of the country doing a job. I believe it was in Dubai. Or something. So what happened is they were trying to serve him, I believe, with a subpoena or something, and they were going to his known address, and that's why they weren't able to reach him. So it wasn't like he was like hiding, trying to put together his version of the story.
Okay, so just last question. I want to turn the page on this particular story because it's getting hotter and hotter. Okay, given what we all know right now and given what's said, why was Kelsey trying to get immunity or special privileges based on her testimony? Remember, she kept pleading the fifth. If what Megan said is correct, if what Kelsey said is correct, why is she pleading the fifth?
Well, she did receive immunity, so she got that. And tell you the truth, all smart people who are involved in criminal process who might have done something shady are smart to get immunity if it's being offered, because then that's one less thing to worry about. And so one of two things: either she knows she's the one who shot Megan, or two, there was some other criminal activity going on in that car and she wasn't sure if that was going to come up, and so she wanted to have the protection of immunity.
All right, and I think I'm going to make the assessment that I think because she knew she had an illegal gun in the state of California, which is the state you don't want to be in with an illegal gun, that she wanted immunity just in case the gun was traced back to her. And that would protect her more, because that also, regardless of how Megan got shot, her having an illegal gun in the state of California would carry some type of prosecution.
Gotcha. Now that totally makes sense. But either way, because it could also be that the version that the driver told was correct, which is the two were fighting over the gun, which would make them equally liable. Because again, Tory wasn't found guilty of intentionally hurting Meg. He was found of doing it recklessly. Reckless was the word.
Right. And then also they tagged on, remember, he was in probation of carrying guns before in the state of California. And state of California doesn't play that. If you get caught, you go straight to jail the second time if it's a gun related violation of probation. All right, jeez, I told you, everybody. I told you tonight was going to be hot. Is Brion still with us, bailiff, or not? Can you put that in the private chat? I think our criminal attorney might be with us to join us tonight. If you could please put it in the chat, bailiff, if Brion is here. All right, let's welcome criminal defense attorney Brion Ross. Welcome to the show, Brion.
How are you doing? Everybody doing great?
Hey, Brion, we're better now.
Hey, better now. Listen, Judge, the main reason I came on this show, literally, I've been in motion practice all day. I won everything. It's great. But the reason I came on this show is I saw who you had lined up, and I came to intervene in Pink Shirt Women's Liberal Night. That was my dream. I came to show up to intervene in Pink Women's Liberal Night. Every man liberal night. Put him in jail. He's guilty. So I don't really have a lot to say until they start hating on the brothers. All right.
Well, they're being nice. They're being nice to Tory. They're being nice to Tory tonight. All right, everybody. Let's throw some briefcase in the chat for criminal defense attorney Brion Ross. Brion, welcome to the show. All right. Don't forget to hit that like button, because the likes aren't liking. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you are subscribed, be sure to hit the share button. Turn on your notifications, because we got some good content coming to you this week. And also jump in his comments, because I think if you guys are like me, the judge here in Public Opinion, you've got some thoughts on what really went down with the Megan and Tory Lanez case. You also may have some different thoughts than you thought before after hearing Jaquan Smith's testimony. I mean, hey, to me, I think that now things are starting to make a whole lot more sense to me than they were before. All right, next up, Elon Musk. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. And it's interesting why you are in the Court of Public Opinion. You're in the Court of Public Opinion because you are saying that Google is interfering with the election, when in fact you have suspended the Twitter account for White Dudes for Harris. And it's so funny to me, Elon, that you have suspended them because they are raising more money than any other group in support of Kamala Harris. All right, my legal beagles, I need for somebody to break down to me, is it legal, because he owns Twitter, is it legal for him to decide who gets turned on or off on the platform, which is supposed to be a social media platform that's publicly traded company platform? Is this legal? Who would like to take this? Attorney Chaton?
I'll jump in on it.
Okay.
Is it legal? Start with publicly held and privately held company. Now, a privately held company like Twitter is regulated by some federal agencies. Okay, they can't put, let's say, kitty porn. It's a bad
It's
example.
publicly held. They're openly traded on the stock
Yeah,
market.
they're
publicly held. I'm sorry,
Private.
I meant that opposite. Thank you very much for correcting me. But for the most part, they can do what they want. So if they want to block him or block any of that, they can. They do it to the chagrin of their followers, or don't they? There is a backlog. There is a backlash. You do that, people may decide not to go to your website. But Elon Musk is putting satellites around the planet. I'm not sure he really cares about that. So it made it one of those things those guys got to deal with. That's my 2
All
cents.
right. So you're basically telling me that this man can decide, because he owns the company that is publicly traded, to block who he wants to block at any time. It seems like it would have to go through some type of process. No, Attorney Chaton Turner, what were you going to say?
Well, it doesn't have to go through a process. And I do agree that Attorney Ross has highlighted the issue. The real question is whether a publicly held company, but that's owned privately, like it's not a governmental agency, has the ability to unilaterally exclude a group from its platform because it doesn't like its political opinions. And so I think the reason this is so interesting is because it kind of highlights what is election interference and what is permitted by these private social media companies. And that is an area of law that really is not established.
Okay, so if it's not established in that case, then help me understand how he's able to create that AI video, putting words into Kamala's mouth that are not her words and creating that campaign against her. Can anyone share with me if that's legal?
That's another area that is unclear because AI is so new from a technology perspective. I actually think what's going to happen is the white dudes for Kamala are going to get a lawyer and they're going to sue on discrimination grounds and election interference and will likely try to pursue an injunction against Twitter that would allow them to come back while this issue gets resolved, and to say that they would be, prejudiced if they're not able to proceed. As it relates to the AI piece, that question is whether the use of that constitutes fraud.
Yes.
Or whether it's known in the public domain that this happens, and so the public should be aware and should not be duped. I actually agree with you. I think it's fraudulent because the average person still doesn't.
It's not going to go through all of that.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. If this was done to Donald Trump on the Facebook platform, a lawsuit would have been filed by his campaign yesterday, and they would have fought it to the tooth.
That's true.
So here, I think it's all about how you couch the legal issue. For me, the legal issue is election interference. So the petition and the claims need to be all about whether or not a publicly traded company is permitted to interfere with the election. And
I agree.
One of the best ways to penalize them is to fine them. The U.S. government, the Department of Justice is good at fining corporations who do fraudulent things. And let's not forget about how Facebook had congressional hearings for weeks where Mark Zuckerberg sat on the seat where he was being interviewed by Congress to discuss how he allowed Facebook to be used to interfere in the last election. And from that, there were a number of different things that were instituted, including limitations on political advertising now on Facebook through Meta, etc. But I think what's really important and what should have been done is we need a huge call to corporations where we're telling corporations, pull your ads from Twitter. If they're going to pull this stunt, yes, you guys need to pull your ad revenue until they make a commitment that they will not anymore interfere in our election.
All right.
Well,
go ahead.
I want to say is I would, in addition to the election interference claims, I think that they have a good claim for racial discrimination because their name is White Dudes for Kamala Harris, right? And so I would pursue that because the discrimination laws are well established and they are clear. And so they may be able to get the come up based on winning on a discrimination claim in a way that could allow them to get what they want without getting pulled into this whole mire of election interference and social media.
I think they need to do all of it. I think we need to do all of it because this is just beginning. And if you let them get away with it now, they're going to continue the campaign and create this false narrative around her to these backwood people who are not reading any papers. They're not.
Disagree. What was fraudulent, Judge? This is an argumentative show. I'm taking devil's advocate. What was fraudulent? I didn't go.
Because I said it in my point. That's what's fraudulent. You really want to wake up this judge.
If I may, Elon Musk is my client. He pays me a lot of money. I want to make the argument that he didn't go out here and say white dudes for Harris are a fraudulent organization. Don't follow them. He didn't manipulate the evidence. He just cut them off. He just said.
No. You're mixing. You're not. See, all right, Brian. You're gonna need to take a sip of water or something because you're mixing
your argument.
Apples and oranges. We're on the AI. Okay, let me tell you something. You're gonna listen in this court of public opinion, sir, or you're gonna find this gavel somewhere that you ain't used to. Okay. Oh, your head.
Around the
Listen,
corner.
I didn't come on here.
We're talking about the AI video that he created and put words in her mouth, and he created a campaign to make it look like she was something and said something that she did not say. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about him suspending white dudes for Harris. Okay, fine. If you want to pull those type of tricks, that's okay. Because one thing I know about a white man is he gonna figure out a way to get to the finish line. Okay, so whether he got to rename it, whether he got to redo something, you're not gonna embarrass a white man on any type of national stage and he not get even. All right, I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is Elon Musk using a platform that is heavily populated by black and brown people, and creating a narrative also that is very detrimental to her running for president. That's what I'm concerned about.
The AI would be a problem. The AI would be on behalf
of welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. Thank you for coming, getting caught up to speed, Attorney Ross. Okay.
I told you I only came in for what was the reason I told you I came? I came to intervene.
The liberal ladies were
not pink shirt, women's liberal night. Okay. The only reason I'm here, I'm not here to be educational. I give you that every night I'm here. Tonight I'm here to interview. They so smart. They coordinated their clothes just like how smart me. I'm here to start trouble
too.
But I do want to give a shout out to Melinda Gates for donating $52 million to Vice President Kamala Harris' presidential campaign. I find this very interesting to watch white women put full support behind Kamala Harris. I also find it very interesting seeing a shift in the mood and emotion, whether it's emotional intelligence or just intelligence in general, as it relates to white men supporting Kamala Harris. This is something that we have never seen in any presidential election in the history of the United States. So to witness this alone, to me, just gives me goosebumps here in the Court of Public Opinion. All right. Any thoughts on Melinda Gates? Any thoughts on the shift in mood and tide in politics in the support of Kamala Harris before we move on?
I don't know.
It's refreshing. It's refreshing.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And it's nice to see a woman throwing that kind of money. And when we've seen the Koch brothers doing it, the only thing I thought about from a legal perspective at that amount, it also kind of begs the question of how much is too much and what does that get you? And so, in some of the things that I saw, it hadn't been confirmed that the amount was 52 million. And I think part of the reason that they're backing away from it is they're probably trying to figure out how to get the money to the campaign in a way that does not implicate the restrictions on the amount that individuals donate.
I agree. Also, let me ask this question. I just thought that how they rolled it out, I just feel like the Democrats are doing things right now. Did you see how they rolled this out? First, they had Melinda Gates interviewing Oprah and Gayle. And then after the interviewing of Oprah and Gayle, which would be considered Black women's, superheroes, if you will, we know that there's range to that. After establishing that relationship, that she has a strong bond with Oprah and Gayle, she then turns around and donates $52 million to Kamala Harris. I don't think that the way that rolled out was a mistake. I think it was intentional. And I think that it's going to give us the type of momentum moving forward that we need. All right. And also she's an AKA Chaton, Kamala Harris. But usually
fantastic organization. Unbelievable community service.
I love it. Always. I love it. All right. Next up, the game. Buddy, guess what? You're back in the Court of Public Opinion. And you're in the Court of Public Opinion for putting your hands on a guy who was trying to meet up with a 15-year-old. You put hands on a 22-year-old guy who was trying to meet up with a 15-year-old on the show called Catching the Predator when you served as a guest host. Attorney Symone Redwine, can you break down what's going on here with the game and why he felt like he had the right to put his hands on the little boy?
I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care. I'm okay with it. I'm okay. He could have dragged him through the tree. I'm okay with that.
All right.
He's a predator, and I don't want to incriminate myself with the bar anymore, so I'm gonna just leave that there. I'm gonna let y'all take it.
You don't want to incriminate what?
Myself with the bar, with the state bar, who could be
Okay.
like, "Oh, you're encouraging hurting pedophiles." Well,
Attorney Chaton, attorney, what are your thoughts on this legally? Legally, not emotionally, but legally.
Not emotionally. Okay. The potential claim on the part of the pedophile is going to be, assault and battery. The real question, to Symone Redwine's point, is whether or not there were mitigating circumstances. He was intervening to save a minor from potential abuse by an adult. And so he's going to likely have a strong defense to the claim, like the end justified the means, so to speak, not to be too Machiavellian. Now, as we know, they pay a lot for these people to be guest hosts on the show. And as we talked about a couple weeks ago, the game actually has some financial concerns because he owes this woman $7 million for his own lawsuit. So the moral to this, to me, was that not everybody who's been found to be bad is all bad. Sometimes they can find Jesus on the road to Damascus and intervene to save it.
Not on the road to Damascus. Well, hold on. All right. I guess I'll be the one then. Let me be the messy judge then. Okay. I absolutely agree, Attorney Redwine. I think it's heroic. I think anybody that's beating up someone that's trying to take advantage of a minor is good. But let's unpack some of the things that have been alleged about the game. How about his assault on the young lady who, he was in that reality show and owes $7 million. Why would you have someone on a show assaulting someone when he assaults women? Now, hold that thought right there. Number two, let's talk about India Love. Allegedly, India Love and him had a relationship that spanned, some argue, when she was not of age, she was underage herself. And it wasn't until she became of age, which was finally turning 18, that they then went public with their relationship. Underage is underage to me. So why are we giving him the role of a host on Catching a Predator when some have alleged in his past his social and sex life with India Love that he may have been doing the same thing that he's beating up other people for? There are crickets here, huh?
Well, I think that the argument for the game, granted, I don't do this all the time like Attorney Ross, so I'd like to get his opinion, but the argument that you would make to distinguish the two would be that at most, and not to mitigate this at all because it's against the law, it's a statutory rape issue between him and India Love, not a consent issue. And she was at the cusp of turning 18, and what she did, they actually were in an actual relationship. The difference between a 22-year-old which appeared to be about to sexually assault physically a 15-year-old in a bathroom stall carries with it greater culpability in terms of what they'd actually be accused of.
All right, Brian, your ladies are standing up for the men tonight. They had Tory Lanez back, and now they got the games back. What is going on in the court of public opinion?
Finally, Judge, we get some righteousness, man. It's been, months.
All right, okay, criminal defense attorney, talk to me though about how clearly this 22-year-old guy, outside of his allegations of trying to take advantage of a minor, he has legal rights. He has legal rights to sue the game. Am I wrong about this? He has legal rights to still sue the game because one thing does not have to do with the other. However, Chaton said that argument could be made that he was protecting the rights of a minor. What say you as a criminal defense attorney?
I mean, if that argument will go far, in a lot of jurisdictions, they have what's called a Good Samaritan kind of statute. And if you see something, you should say something. It's pretty much that simple. So if he goes in and he knows this thing is going to happen, that's not a problem, right? You could do what you need. You can't kill him, right? Unless you had to, but you can defend him as necessary to protect the rights of the innocent quote unquote child if the allegations are true. You can
Got
go
it.
that.
All right. Go ahead.
You could argue that putting a pie in his face was a bit extreme considering the situation. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to say that or not. You know?
But also you have to acknowledge the kid didn't actually exist, and the game knew that. So I think the argument that we're discussing here can only go so far. At the end of the day, me as a civil attorney, this actually would be a great case. You're going to make it to the insurance company. To the insurance company that is insuring the show. They're supposed to have adequate security, especially on a show that is this emotionally filled. They didn't. Guy gets punched in the face. Run him a check. I get him a quick 6 figures and everyone go on their way. Pay the deductible.
I don't know, man.
And then let me tell you, hold on, because we got to get to our last story. Let me tell you the other thing that I have with this show, Catching the Predator. I do think that these types of shows are fascinating, and I do like them because they are catching people doing illegal things against minors. Let me tell you what I don't like, though. These are the same guys. The hosts of this show are the same podcasters that used to drag Black women on a weekly basis in a negative light. And I just don't like the duality of trying to do something right, but usually always doing something wrong.
I think we might be confusing this story with the next story.
They're both Catching the Predator. Both of them. Both of them are the same story. I just don't like that. Just the same way that I don't like how they have these hosts, and this is going to lead into our final story. They have these possible hosts who have sketchy backgrounds, like the Predators. I'm just like, it's too much consumption. It's too much for me to process having a host to catch a predator when the host himself could possibly, arguably, and according to the courts, be described as a predator. It's just sending me mixed messages. And speaking of mixed messages, Quavo, you have landed in the court of public opinion. And speaking of mixed messages, here's another one. So Quavo, you're in the court of public opinion because you ran off with $300,000 that the producers of Catching the Predator gave you to be a host on Catching the Predator. At the last minute, you didn't show up for your assignment and you kept the money. This to me, I'm going to say it again, is concerning, my legal beagles, because isn't this the same Quavo that dated Ruby Rose, who was 16 years old? Am I like woo woo? I'm so confused. When she was a 16-year-old, when she was a lead for one of their compilations of songs on Amigos video, right? And then later they dated, allegedly. Okay, I see why he didn't appear on the show, because his mind was probably thinking like my mind was thinking. All you have to do is go back to the archives and you're going to see all types of media, all types of articles about Ruby Rose and Quavo and her age. So tell me, someone, once again, Catching the Predator is supposed to be stopping predatory behavior. However, the people that they're hosting could be argued to have predatory behavior. Attorney Brion Ross, help me out here.
I mean, I think Quavo, all right, he signs a contract, agrees to do something. He's obviously got some liability there. Whatever the liability is, according to the reports, you took $300,000 and didn't do a job. But then the producer, whose name is Vitali, is having a conversation. He says Quavo doesn't show up, and somebody says no, he's not coming. He says a Black people thing. He's now created a situation where he's infused race into it by saying Black people are the type of people that would take a $300,000 deposit and not show up. So now this story gets real sexy, because what's going to happen after that? You know, where's that going to go? So it doesn't look good. But Quavo,
let's go back, Bailiff. Show me that article one more time, Bailiff. Show me that article one more time, because I don't want people to think that I'm just making stuff up. I'm looking at the comments. Show me the article, please, Bailiff, if you don't mind putting the article back up, where Ruby Rose clarifies her age after saying she was 16 when she became a video vixen. Now, what she said was that she could have been 16 or 17. Okay, she said Migos Bad and Bougie was the first video I ever did. I think I was 16 or 17 when I did this video, she recalled. Google this stuff, people. Instead of saying that it's not true, Google this stuff.
Well, the other thing is funny. It's not like that's a fact that can't be known, right? They know what year they made the video. She knows when her birth date is, right? So, I mean, like, there's no confusion about that. She was just trying to, like, make it look better. Like, I was 17 and 3/4.
So from contractually, we're not even going to dig any deeper in that story because we shared the evidence like we shared, okay? But contractually, does he have to give the $300,000 back?
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's not even. I don't think this actually happened. I have trouble believing that they paid him $300,000 for one episode. Now, it'd be one thing if maybe he was going to be the co-host for the entire season, but it wouldn't make nobody gets paid $300K for one episode unless you're like the cast of Friends.
Right, that's what I was going to say.
You don't even make that kind of money. So they're lying. And that's the thing. People lie about this kind of stuff all the time to make their productions seem more lucrative than they are.
Right.
I didn't even know who Quavo was till we started doing this research for this story. So yeah, I was like, wow, why don't I get $300,000 for the court of public opinion? We can talk about that offline.
Because y'all hit that like, and hit that subscribe.
That's
y'all.
right. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe.
I'm down to unionize. I'm down to unionize for $30,000 per show payment.
Oh, wait a minute. First off, there you selling the only other male on the panel down the river. But before you're supposed to be here to separate the liberal women. You know what, Attorney Ross? Take him off
the show. You gonna kick me? I saw you almost hit your little button over there.
I was going to grab my gavel. All right, everybody, it's that time of the show where we get to the questions that you have for our legal beagles. First up, we have Demonde H. Tory won an appeal with the appeals court. Yes, we talked about that. Thank you, Symone Redwine, for
didn't win.
That up.
They're just going to hear his claim.
Shane Daly Hargrove, or just say Miss Muffin Hargrave. Who's on the docket tonight? Can we start getting a docket list? Well, actually, you do get a docket list, and it's done in my thumbnails, right? It's done in my thumbnail when we promote the show. We tell you everyone that's on the docket. We just don't tell you what we're going to be talking about. So, Miss motherfucking Hargrave, you do get a docket list. All right. Afra sings, is that right? Did I say that right? We got a bailiff now too. Yeah, we've always had a bailiff. The bailiff be asleep sometimes. So
the bailiff's the producer behind the
our bailiff is also our producer. He's got 500 hats on. So we'll be very nice to the bailiff. And then Demonde H said, there is a bailiff here. Yes, that is correct. All right, Choose Compassion says, does the First Amendment apply? Which case are they talking about?
Twitter and Elon.
Okay. And so does the First Amendment apply here?
No, this is a private company. This is private acts. So the First Amendment applies in situations where like basically private entities have the right to say you can't talk about this. In the same way that on your job, they have the right, for example, if you make a social media post, they can fire you for it, right?
Right.
Because of the fact that as a company, they can say, we don't like that kind of speech. It looks poorly on our brand. So the answer is the First Amendment, no, does not apply to this type of conduct.
All right, got it. Billy Littles, thank you so much for watching. Are we mad because he's white? Elon is out of his mind, but seriously, why are Black people pro Kamala outside of not wanting Trump? Kamala's been on PTO for 4 years.
Oh, Billy.
Okay,
no. Listen, no. Billy, allow me.
Billy, I'm not even getting deep into.
Allow me. We appreciate your commentary. Please continue to spectate every evening, and we appreciate what you had to say.
Go ahead, Symone.
I'll say this. I want to encourage people. What I've come to find is now that social media is so popular and so prevalent, a lot of times people assume that people aren't doing work or something hasn't occurred if they don't see it on their timeline. So to say Kamala's been on PTO for 4 years, if you haven't gone to her page for her campaign, and looked at the statements of what she's accomplished, and then it's really not fair to say she hasn't done anything because of the fact that you're not aware of it. You
That's
also
true.
have to take into consideration, especially if it's somebody you don't really like, right? You're not necessarily going to go to their page and like do a lot of research, but let's just not necessarily assume that just because I don't know about it doesn't mean it hadn't happened.
Also, it's absolutely false statement. I mean, some things are factual, some things are left up to interpretation. This, unfortunately, Billy Little, is not true. And the producer Bailiff has been asking me, Al, you really should go live and talk about all the things that Kamala has done during her administration, not only during her administration, but also her time as senator for the state of California, plus as her time as attorney general for the state of California. And I'm thinking that is something that I might want to do. So be sure to turn on your notifications, because I think this is a fair question, because if you go off of what you're being fed, then I can see how you can make this assessment, but it simply is not true. Let's keep going. Choose compassion. Who better to catch a predator? You know what? Choose compassion. You shut me down on that one. You're absolutely right. Who better to catch a predator than a predator? Oh, wow. That was pretty smart. All right. Last up, Tam B. Dan says, why does he have to give the money back? Did he hire her directly?
I think this is referring to Quavo in the $300,000. And the answer is, if you're contracted to perform work and you don't do it, you got to give the money back. Just like if you hired a contractor to install you a pool and they don't install you a pool, they got to give you the money back or be sued.
I agree. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. Let's get back to the part of the show where we, the legal beagles and the judge, issue our verdict. First up, is R. Kelly guilty or not guilty of all his sex crimes, and should he be prosecuted? Attorney Chaton Turner, what say you?
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
All right, Attorney Symone Redwine. Well, we know you representing one of the people that he committed the sex crime against. What is your verdict?
Very guilty. He's very guilty.
All right, Attorney Brion Ross, don't say anything stupid to get you thrown out the court of public.
I can't defend him. I mean, I'm sorry. He one of the brothers I can't defend.
All right, Al, this is Al Reynolds, your judge in the court of public opinion, and we're going to find R. Kelly guilty. Guilty as charged, and it took us too long to find him guilty of these sex crimes. Next up, Jaquan Smith. Is he guilty or not guilty for bringing his information to the court sooner, or is he not guilty because he did issue a statement? Attorney Brion Ross, what say you?
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
All right, Symone Redwine, what say you?
Statement. I'm saying maybe, I don't know. Well, I'm gonna stick with guilty because of the fact that this is inadmissible. So we got to go with guilty.
All right, Attorney Chaton Turner, what say you?
I say not guilty. I think that Jaquan, had pure intentions with bringing this evidence forward and kind of had to do it. And so I think not guilty of engaging in anything bad, but I don't think it's going to make a difference.
All right, this is Al Reynolds, and I'm your judge in the court of public opinion, and I'm going to find Jaquan Smith not guilty, not guilty. I actually want this information allowed to the courts to review because it's making things make sense to me, and I think that if it is allowed and we do another timeline of what really went down, I think the verdict may be different. All right, next up, is Elon Musk guilty or not guilty for election interference? Attorney Chaton Turner, what say you?
He's guilty.
All right, Attorney Symone Redwine?
Guilty.
Brion Ross?
He's guilty.
All right, I'm Al Reynolds, the judge of the court of public opinion. I'm going to find Elon Musk guilty, and I'm going to find Melinda Gates not guilty of committing any type of donation violations for the amount of money that she's giving, because isn't someone giving, who is it that Elon is giving Trump $40-50 million a week, right?
He backed away from that somehow, but he
backed away. Well, if he's allowed to give it, then Melinda should be allowed to give it. That's how I look at it. Next up, is the game guilty or not guilty of assaulting a predator? Attorney Brion Ross, what say you?
He's guilty of it.
All right. Symone Redwine, is he guilty, not guilty?
Guilty.
All right, Chaton, what say you?
Mitigating factors. He'll be
Woo.
found not guilty.
You say not guilty?
Not guilty on the mitigating factors.
All right, this is Al Reynolds in the court of public opinion. I'm going to find the game guilty. Guilty for a number of things, including including what he did with India Love. All right, up in last, Quavo. Is Quavo guilty or not guilty of stealing those people's money? Attorney Chaton Turner, what say you?
Guilty.
Symone Redwine.
Guilty.
Brian Ross.
Guilty. He's guilty.
All right, and this is Al Reynolds in the court of public opinion, and I find Quavo guilty of stealing those people's money, and also guilty of allegedly dating Ruby Rose when she was only 16 or 17 years old. All right, everyone, that brings the show to adjournment. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications and meet us back here in the court of public opinion on Friday at 6:30 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. Court is adjourned.